Hi, thanks for joining us for Coffee Chats. Today is November 11th, Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. This is not going to be shown on Veterans Day. You'll be seeing it on the 12th. It should be airing at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And on Friday the 13th, I believe it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon that this is going to air. Couple of things I wanted to tell you before I turn the camera over to Jeff. First of all, the East Gate in the back is going to be closed for the winter. So if you're accustomed to going up Chatham Field Road and taking a left there, you're gonna have to redirect yourself and go right in through the main entry. So just a reminder about that. Thanksgiving dinner reservations. As you all know, we are going to be having Thanksgiving optional dinner here. It's going to be served at 11:30 in the morning, which is really nice. We've got the Rose Room staff coming in and preparing a delicious homemade dinner for you. Dinner reservations can be made up until the 19th. We would really like to get a specific head count by the 19th. If for some reason you miss that date and you really need to have dinner for the Thanksgiving day, don't hesitate to call the kitchen and let them know. We're going to do our very best to accommodate everybody. We understand that sometimes things are going to change. You may choose not to go to an event that you'd been planning to, or the weather might be really bad and you just decide to stay put. We're here and we're hoping to be able to accommodate everybody. Again, the kitchen number is 6388. Don't hesitate to give them a call. Let them know what you are going to need. And then just another reminder that the Thanksgiving dinner actually is part of the December menu. So keep in mind that you need to use all of your Thanksgiving or all of your November meals before Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving will technically be a December meal. So if you're planning on using it as one of your 3 that's included, keep that in mind. If you have any questions about that, again, you can call the front desk regarding that, or you can call 6388 to make a reservation. Next thing on the list, you've probably already seen the signs, but we are going to cancel the garage cleaning and the garage restriping. It's really important for us to keep everybody safe. And with the ice and the refreezing, we just felt that it's better to just wait on that. Yes, we'd love to have a swept garage and fresh lines put down there, but not at the expense of your safety. We don't want anybody to feel like they have to go out and move a vehicle or anything like that. So we've made the decision that we're going to kind of kick the can down the road, and that's something that we'll revisit in the spring and hopefully get it done then. Garden spots. I still have some people who had garden spots this year that have not contacted me about reserving that for next summer. So please give me a call, 6280, if you haven't already, regarding a garden spot. And if you want a garden spot, if you didn't have one last year and you'd like one, same thing. Give me a shout and I will go ahead and put you on the list. We're hoping to be able to accommodate everybody to make sure that everyone gets a garden spot. We've had a lot of interest, so that's really good. The last thing I want to talk about is the week of the week of November 23rd and the week of November 30th. There are going to have to be some adjustments made with the housekeeping schedule so that we can accommodate the Thanksgiving holiday. So some of those will be changed. If you are going to have a change in your scheduling, you will receive a phone call. So just kind of be aware of that if there's going to be a change, your apartment will be cleaned, but we may have to change when we come. So just kind of be aware of that. That's to accommodate the Thanksgiving holiday. And I think that's really all we have on that. Jeff, let's turn it over to you.
All righty.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Paula. Hello, everybody. My neighbor Joan decides to bake some brownies for her 2 little grandsons. She got one of those rectangular pans. Because the kids are really competitive, she knows she has to divide what she bakes right in half, which is pretty easy to do when you have a rectangular pan. So she bakes the brownies, takes them out, and puts them on a cooling rack. Before she cuts it in half, however, her husband comes along, and what's he do? He cuts out a rectangle right out of the middle of the pan at random. Imagine now you've got a rectangular cake and he cuts out a rectangle out of the middle. He wasn't even nice enough to cut it out of the corner. The cuts aren't even parallel to the sides of the original cake. It's not touching an edge, but it could be. And it's not necessarily parallel to any of the sides. It is a rectangle. She's bemoaning this fact to a friend she's got on the phone. She says, "What's this all about? How am I going to cut it in half now?" "Well, I guess you'll have to make more brownies, and I'll eat this," the husband says. "Nope." The friend on the phone says, "I have a remedy for your dilemma." The woman says, "Does it involve rat poison?" It does not involve rat poison. The girlfriend says, "I have a way you can cut this cake in half and make sure that each of your grandchildren gets the same amount of brownie. In fact, I have 2 ways to do it. There's a hard way and an easy way." She says, "Give me both ways." Can any of you give one way? All right, that's long enough. Here's the answer. This isn't. The hard way is to take your knife and holding it parallel to the cooling rack that the brownie is sitting on, slice the brownie this way. So you basically fillet the brownie. And there's a top half and a bottom half. Paula's shaking her head, doesn't like that idea. Do you think there's a difference between the top half and the bottom
Absolutely.
half of a brownie? Yes, there is.
Just stump
There
them
is.
on.
Here's the other solution, which I hesitate to even get into because I can't explain it. That's the beauty of being on tape, is I don't have to worry about explaining it. If you take a rectangle, how would you find the center of the rectangle? You would draw diagonals. You would connect one corner to the opposite corner and likewise, and then where they intersect, you'd have the center. Any line drawn through the center of a rectangle that's not a diagonal also cuts the rectangle in half. Did you know that? So you have your diagonal. If straight up would cut it in half, even at a little bit would cut it in half. Okay. So if you were to draw a line through the center of the big rectangle and it went through the center of the hole, then you would cut the brownie into exactly 2 pieces. So what you do is you find the center of the little rectangle that her husband has cut out by making 2 diagonals. Then you draw 2 diagonals for the big piece of the brownie. It makes no difference where the other rectangle is. If you connect the centers with a straight line and continue right through the edges, you've cut the brownie in half. Roger, do you understand what I just said?
Absolutely.
Paula, do you?
No.
You take the big one and you make a diagonal.
You cut it?
No, you just draw lines.
Chalk line?
You're making this too difficult. No, or more difficult. You're asking the right questions. I don't know how to do it. So then you take the little circle, you do that, and you run a line through the center of both centers of each rectangle.
Huh.
Anyway, I don't know if that.
I'll
works.
draw her a picture
There
afterward.
you go. There you go. I want to talk a little bit about the letter that you folks received under your doors on Tuesday. And that was a letter informing you that we indeed had a positive case here at Ridge Point. It took till November for us to have our first truly positive case. That's the bad news. The good news is we know exactly, and I mean exactly, how it got here. And it was a visitor. It was a visitor that was approved, that the appointment was made. We vetted that visitor, and there was no temperature. We asked the questions that we always ask, and nothing came up. That visitor was given approval to stay overnight. The visitor did stay overnight. I don't want to get in, I've probably said too much already, but the fact is the visitor had tested positive, and then the resident had tested positive. So that's how it got here. Neither are at Ridgepoint now, and so we don't believe we have an active case here now, and we want to keep it that way. So that's what I wanted to tell you about the case of last week. Also, I wanted to talk a little about, we're getting a number of questions about when do I have to quarantine and when do I have to isolate and all that stuff. For you to be safe is on your shoulders. I think one thing that we've done and tried to do is do our best to proactively keep you safe and to come up with ways for you as a group population to stay safe. That's not always easy. And what we know is if you take care of yourself, that's the best odds of you being safe. Back to quarantine. If you are in a room for that with someone and you're not practicing social distancing and you find out that that person tested positive for COVID-19, that is a sure sign that you need to quarantine for 14 days. 14 days. Because you're at high risk. CDC says if you're not practicing social distancing and you're around someone that has COVID-19, you're a very, very high risk person and that had COVID-19 when you were around them. The other people that are at high risk are people that have symptoms. If you've got a fever, if you've got a cough, if you're achy, if you're fatigued, if you're any of those things, then you need a 14-day quarantine, okay? If you go out and spend time with your family and no one is sick or whatever, you're technically not at high risk. Now, because things are asymptomatic, the disease can be asymptomatic, meaning you don't show symptoms. What we're asking people is, if you go out and about and you mix with a family or a larger group or whatever, and you come back, we ask you to keep a low profile for maybe 5 days. And when we say, we suggest that you keep a low profile. We suggest that if you're going to get your mail after 8 o'clock or before 7 o'clock. Don't be out and about when there's a lot of people around. That's for your neighbors. For you, stay in your apartment, get rest, make sure you're okay. Make sure, call the people that were at the party. Find out if any of them are experiencing symptoms. And if after 5 days no one has really shown symptoms or anything, then your risk level would go down. I think still you may want to not go out and fully integrate with people. But if you do, guess what? Wear your mask. We can dictate that, and we will dictate that. Wear your mask. And when you're wearing your mask, folks, have it over your nose. Please, please, please. When you don't have it over your nose, you don't have a mask on. You're just breathing, and if, heaven forbid, you have the virus, it's going out. CDC did, in fact, change their stance on masks this week, and they say the mask does protect you as well. Up until this week, they were saying that the mask was worn to protect others that you're around, but nope, it's to protect you as well. So please, please, please know if you're high risk. If you are, stay away from your neighbors. Okay. People are also asking for a visitation policy on Thanksgiving. We were hoping that the governor's talk on Tuesday would have dictated what our policy would be, but it didn't quite go far enough to tell us what we can do. For now, we are discouraging going anywhere and inviting anyone here. We haven't said you can't do that. You can. It's a free country. But if you want my opinion, our opinion, it's we discourage you from bringing anyone here and we discourage you from going anywhere. and that is not always easy to take, but I believe the virus has hit so close to all of us, much more now than it did back in March, April, May, or June. I mean, Minnesota is, the hospitals are full. The interesting thing I found out about that is the beds aren't full, but the staff is stretched. There's not enough workers to take care of all the sick people. And the more this spreads, the more pronounced that will be. And so you may have a bed, you just won't have anyone to care for you. So please, please be careful, be careful, be careful. I hope you've been able to hear all this. We are doing our best to rectify some of the sound issues that we have. I know that the one thing we've done that I hope is changing, we've said, okay, let's film in a small space, and so we don't have to cover a lot of ground, that the filming is done in close proximity. We are social distancing, and so that we're giving the sound the best chance. We think that helped a lot. What we are going to do now too is we are buying new equipment. We're going to have some new equipment that we'll have in place, I believe, next week, provided it's in stock and all that type of thing. And then also we have a sound engineer coming next Tuesday who is going to help us consult us through this, take a look at how we're doing things, what we're doing, and maybe provide some advice if need be. So that's what I know. I want you all to be safe. I want to talk a little bit about a story about my dad. He grew up in Walcott, North Dakota, and there's no bar in Walcott, North Dakota now, but there was when he grew up. And he was telling me a story. He used to go up and shoot pool in the bar, and one day there was these two guys walked in and they sat at the bar, and one of them says, today's my birthday. And the other guy goes, that is so crazy. Today's my birthday too. Let's have a beer on that. So they have a beer. A little bit later, guy says, what's your name? My name's Olson. What's your name? God dang it. My name's Olson too. Well, let's have a beer on that. So they have a beer on that. A little while later, they go, where are you from? I'm from Erskine, North Dakota. Really? I'm from Erskine, North Dakota too. God dang it, let's have a beer on that. So they have a beer on that. So right then, the phone rings, and it's the bartender's wife. And, he was working the day shift, and she's saying, like, what time you going to be home for dinner, and what's going on, and all that stuff. And so they're having a conversation. She goes, what's going on around there? He goes, oh, it's pretty quiet, just the Olsen twins getting drunk again. Have a good week.
So I just thought about something.